Hello, I'm here with Hannah Fox, and Hannah's actually celebrating her 20th anniversary of having worked at the museum. So congratulations, Hannah. You're the first person to be involved with our Five Objects project, which is great. And you've chosen 5 really interesting pieces. And why not start off with the first one?
So the first one that I picked was the baby's call, which is a protection amulet against drowning. Both my children were born with their calls intact. So this object has long been of personal interest to me, particularly as a dream state fear of mine is drowning from a big sea wave, despite having been a reasonable swimmer since I can remember. Needless to say, with the children, I ensured they learn to swim and have respect for our untamed coastal waters, but feel blessed they have their own extra protection. As a water sign, I've always been puzzled as to why this particular element should hold both love and fear for me. Snorkeling with seals off the Isles of Scilly whilst pregnant with my oldest, I had to deal with deep water and big kelp, but seeing the fluidity and elegance of these beautiful creatures playing within their own environment, in comparison to the comical flubbering of their movement on land, I recognised that we do not require to be masters of everything, or anything for that matter. To go with the flow might be a cliche, but one that suits me and holds its own protection. I now have confidence the fear I held for the deep sea is just one of respect.
Oh, that's lovely, because I had never come across a call until I saw one in the museum. I didn't even know what they were, or yeah, I really hadn't heard of them before. So both your children were born with them. Did you keep them?
I didn't actually, but it was something that Lee and I both acknowledged when they were born. It was like, oh goodness, we're quite lucky here, so that the children had their own kind of protection without having to keep the physical object. Obviously, the example we have in the museum would have been from a baby that would have been given to someone as an amulet, but I felt that as both my children were born with them, they kind of had that protection anyway, so we're lucky. So it's just a personal interest, really.
So that brings us to your second object. What are you going to talk about?
Yes, well, my second object, I just couldn't resist this one, is called a tree sprite. And who wouldn't be enthralled by this mischievous face, which once studied closely cannot easily be forgotten. Although previously described as sinister or unlucky, this fellow makes me smile, and I think maybe a brownie, who appears as a breath of fresh air from the woodlands to assist with jobs around the house. Although I suspect could easily distract one from the mundane task in hand. If there ever is truth in the idea that objects can come alive at night or when your back is turned, this character would be the first, with a hop and a skip to lead you a merry dance out into the wild spaces.
He is a very mischievous looking character, but he comes with an interesting story, doesn't he? Because the person who sent him, if I'm right, believed he was cursed or there was some bad luck attached to him.
I think often these sort of objects, be it dolls or, sort of little figures, appear to be scary to a lot of people, but I don't find that. I think he gives off a sort of just aura of fun and adventure. Yeah. I just found him delightful. Well, my third object is a ritual sash. It's an embroidered ritual sash. We actually have very little about that in the museum, so I don't even know who it was donated from or where it came from. But I picked this because occasionally you come across an object that lifts your spirits just by its sheer beauty. The intricacy of design, coupled with exquisite needlework, shows clearly the love and dedication used in the creation of the sash. This humble piece of cloth, with the use of coloured thread, journeys through the elements from the celestial heavens with that midnight blue sky that calls the witch to nighttime revels amongst the moon and stars, through lightning, snow and wind, and then a rainbow, the symbol of hope and unity that manages to encompass many, if not all, belief systems. Through the clouds, those majestic skyships that contain Earth's precious life-giving water, and out into the sunshine, whose rays enable growth and warmth. Most certainly warms my pagan heart.
It's a really lovely thing. It's sort of, what is it? It's about a metre, just over a metre long. And it's incredibly detailed. I mean, there's a hell of a lot of work went into it, whoever created it. Presumably it was used in a ceremonial or a ritual context. It must have been. And you wouldn't go to that much effort to create that without having it used in some way.
Fourth object, but it's slightly sort of dogleg here, because it's an object that we haven't had long in the museum. It's not one of our old objects. It's the crocodile. And I've long wondered the significance of crocodiles hung in an astrologer or alchemist or magician's workshop or cave. It's sort of just one of those sort of pictures that, I've always had. And I've always wondered why a crocodile. So I pondered for a while and just came up with some thoughts. Crocodiles, as one of the Earth's oldest inhabitants, have found a way to survive through millennia of changing weather systems and habitats. Not too big like mammoths and dinosaurs, but large enough to be a top of the food chain predator. This suggests some wisdom. With armoured skin and big teeth, it's well protected. So in conclusion, to be wise, strong, clever, stealthy, adaptable and able to protect are advantageous attributes for anyone seeking power. And with the ability to move between the worlds of night and day, land and sea, for the magician, I can think of no more being more suitable to represent this. My only nose wrinkle about the subject is the addition of dominance over this marvellous amphibian by stringing him up. But on the reverse side, if located above a workspace, it's possible that the powers of crocodile could be drawn upon within the practitioner's work. Whatever the reason, I do admire the spirit of crocodile.
No, that's lovely, because you often see them hanging in the sort of near a fireplace or in a magician's den, especially in those sort of very quite early etchings or drawings of a supposed magician's sorcerer's den. But yeah, I've never really worked out why they would have had a crocodile, or in fact how they would have seen a crocodile then compared with the way in which we see them now. Of course, it would have been very different. What's your last object?
Okay, my last object is the moon mirror. And when you regularly walk around the museum collection, maybe cleaning or wafting incense at the start of the day, or adjusting texts or displays, there are certain artifacts that just exude a tantalizing tingle of magic. And this mirror is one of those. Although not prominent amongst the spookier black glass or obsidian dark mirrors, a mere glance into the depths of this etched face can create a yearning to be whisked away to a desolate moorland hilltop with scudding clouds and eerie moonlit shadows, or a still dark lake with whispering trees and the calls of night walkers. To offer the face of this mirror to catch the light of the moon while offering devotional chosen words to Cain, Achan, Drum, or whoever the man in the moon is to you, and to absorb the spirit link created would be treasure indeed, I feel. I'd love to know the secrets Mrs. Goodman of Plymouth, who previously owned this mirror, could have shared. This is one of the things, obviously, with the objects in the collection. It's really nice sometimes to look at them and feel, to be able to use the objects yourself.
I've never seen one like that before. Sort of in antique shops, and always wondered whether or not that whoever had it made had a specific purpose in mind, and what that may have been, or whether they worked specifically with the moon or the phases of the moon, or it really is a really magical object. Thank you, Hannah, so much. That's a really, really interesting choice, and thank you for being the first person as well to be involved in the fire project. So I'll finish there.